We've got quite a few attendees online, so all welcome. So Jeff and I were talking a few weeks ago. There was a message on LinkedIn. One of the Seadrill rigs had 3 years drops free. So I asked Jeff, is that normal? So he shared with me that that's not exactly very normal, but it is a goal, and some other rigs are achieving it as well. So we kind of started the discussion. What do you need to do to achieve that kind of level of success? Because we all, of course, want to have 0 dropped objects, but what do you really need to do to achieve that? So we asked Jeff to dig a little bit in his organization and figure out what's the story behind his success. And Jeff will be sharing that with us today. He was supposed to be onshore with a better connection and all, but it seems to be working all right. He needs to catch a boat, so it won't be a full hour, but there should be some time for questions after the presentation. So I will share my screen right now, and then the floor is yours, Jeff. And you just tell me when.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Joachim.
When to click.
Sure. So AOD3 is the jackup that we have in Saudi Arabia, and they actually did 3 years with no objects, and that's what Joachim saw the link in, and I was like, wow, that's pretty impressive. But not only is it impressive that they had, and I talked to Joachim and I said, yeah, it's all about execution. We have a robust system, and the AOD3 obviously knows how to execute the system. So next slide. So AOD3 was so successful, not only in drops, but they were the rig of the quarter, or rig of the quarter 1, Q2, Q3, Q4. So Seadrill Magazine, even the corporate office, said, what is the secret to the success of the AOD3? So what they did is they did a whole spread in our Seadrill Magazine, and there's a few elements that I'd like to take out of it. Next slide, please, Joachim. Next slide. Okay, here you go. So this is from the rig manager, and one of the things that he contributed his success to was our insight. Gary is a strong supporter of the benefits of insight. Quote, insight is one of the finest tools I have seen roll out since working with Seadrill, he said. It's like being graded on a daily basis and being able to see the rig's current standing at any point of time so we can adjust our behavior and apply energy where it's needed. So I did have a YouTube video link in here, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to play it. But basically what Seadrill did is we have multiple source systems. We have Oracle, we have a maintenance system, we have a reporting system. And unfortunately, it's very difficult to get all the data out there. So we reached out to Microsoft Azure, and what we've done is we've put all this data in a warehouse. And you say, okay, great, you can have some information. But information is very important because we're able to, and every 12 hours it syncs, we can see all of our KPIs, and the depth of the KPIs that were actually identified in Seadrill gives us a really good point of view of where we at when it comes to HSC, where's our profiles, where our causes, and we're able to, on a daily basis, if we see a particular trend, we're able to adjust it, do a certain campaign or reach out to the people. And even our star cards, we have a Power BI where we can actually filter in and see exactly what trends that the crew is reporting and what the trends aren't reporting. So another, I guess the next slide, Joachim, or are you trying to hook up the video?
Yeah, I'm trying to hook up the video. Just give me 1 second. Jeff, is the sound
Seadrill is the leading
right?
offshore driller operating globally. We have a workforce around 6,000 people with a fleet of around 68 rigs. They are technologically advanced and very modern. Each of our rigs generate volumes and volumes of data. And being able to access that data, to be able to predict failures of equipment, to be able to optimize the performance of that equipment, and of course the performance of the rig itself, that in itself is a game changer, to be able to make the right predictions effectively.
To be able to produce performance data through interactive dashboards that's real time instead of 30 to 40 days old, it allows us to go into negotiations with customers and clearly demonstrate that our rig is outperforming our competitors' rig because we actually have the data available now.
We are using the Microsoft's Azure cloud to develop the right algorithms to predict anomalies and to also learn from those anomalies. All of those capabilities are built into Microsoft Azure. We are using Azure machine learning for our inventory optimization, and this is a capability that's gone live on 6 of our rigs. It recommends what our stock levels should be on our rigs. We are predicting and learning to be able to reduce our costs.
We can drill in now and see how much is going to inventory versus planned maintenance or corrective maintenance. It's giving us transparency to see, are we spending the money correctly, and then reduce total spend.
Another component of our digital platform relies on having good business intelligence and advanced analytics. And we use Power BI and Microsoft's data warehouse technologies to be able to bring together sources of data from various systems together and being able to turn those data into actionable insight for us. Our safety agenda, our operations agenda, and our people agenda, and our financial agenda, and being able to make the right decisions is a competitive edge. The technologies that Microsoft provides is core to many elements of our digital transformation program. So if I look at the range from Office 365 to Sky for Business to Power BI to Microsoft SQL data warehouses to Azure, there are many elements of Microsoft's technologies used in our digital platform. The scale and the scope of Microsoft technologies fits well with the agenda that we have. I'm very fortunate to be in this industry, working for this company at this time. And the challenges of the industry and the advancements that's happening in Microsoft's technologies, all of them are great recipes of making great things happen. So I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, so this there was a short video, but it kind of tells you exactly what we're doing, and it talked about maintenance. But the competitive edge is basically how we're getting. If you go back to the other, though, I just want to get the quote from the rig manager. If you go back 2 slides, you okay?
Yeah, this one.
Yeah. So here, yeah. So here's another quote that comes from the rig manager, and basically what he's saying is that, you know, crew commitment and open communication are the key to the success, right? The crew are well-oiled machines, a well-oiled cog that works like a machine, like it does. And what it says, what really highlighted was our management style is based on positive reinforcement, open communication, and honest reporting. Now, we can have the best Power BI, we can have the best Azul, but if we're not honestly reporting and actually putting it in the source system exactly what's happened, we're never going to learn, and we're never learn lessons from our incidents. So the AOD does this really well, and the OIM actually highlights the fact that, you know, the culture on board his rig is, look, we're very positive, we're very open, and if we do something wrong, then we report it. And again, that's something that success over there on the AOD3. Go to slide number 6, 2 slides forward. So here's a little screenshot of our Power BI. If you look at this particular Power BI, it's actually filtered on dropped objects. So what we can do is we can look at the different profile of the dropped objects in their area, on our rig, on our installation, tell you, you know, what's the cause, is it people, what's the weights, where's the location, and it gives you a pretty good idea of where you should focus all your energy, right? So as you can see, the drill floor, no surprise, it's one of the most high potential for the dropped objects. So we send our people in there to do work site verifications and to identify the potential dropped objects and check through it. And they'll even tell you between the dynamic versus the static, and depends on what the filter is. So this is the Power BI, and this is the insight. Not only does it have drops, but it has star cards, hypos, hertz, and that's just the HSE tabs. So you can really go through it. And that's what, again, what the rig manager said was the key to success, is that it's like a daily grading, and it tells you exactly where you're at. And if you're kind of straying off the wrong way or a different trend, then you're able to react within that 12 hours instead of waiting 2 weeks for the report to come back saying that, you know, you can improve in a certain area. All right, if you go to the next slide. So one of the things that we did, you know, we're talking about drops objects, and this is a drop seminar, so I don't want to get too far over on the digitalization and the Power BIs, but it is a good resource to have. But, you know, when we had the discussion at the beginning, we said that the AOD, we have a robust system and we do a really good job with dropped objects. You know, we got our picture books, we have our drops inspector, we do our weekly surveys, we cover the whole rig in the month, and it's really all mainly focused on static dropped objects. So what we did here in Seadrill is we said, all right, how can we heighten awareness of dropped objects or potential dropped objects? So what we did is we started running a campaign about potential dropped objects. And basically what we did is we had this presentation. We said, how do you prevent dropped objects? Of course, you use your chronic unease, identify potential dropped objects. You look for your weak danger signal. And then I'd give photographs, a loose item in the container, the container not closed, a protector that's not actually closed all the way. So when it comes over, it could possibly fall. Next slide, please, Joaquin. And then here's a couple of different ones. And not only do you look at the lifts, you look at the ones that are quite easy to see, but you actually look interior. Are your racks in the right place? Do you have any loose items on your pipe? On your container lifts, or do you have anything that's a potential dropped object? Next slide, please. And basically, what I'm trying to do is just try to raise awareness, different scenarios that kind of let the crew know, like, this is the kind of things that we look for. Do you see this bracket? Do you see this? Do you see a loose bolt? Do you see the split pin miss? And again, a lot of these are static, but also we try to encourage them when it comes to dynamic. What could crash? What could, where are your risk areas? Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Or did that freeze on me? Okay. And here's an example where the guys actually found like a little welding rod that goes into it. So again, this is very positive stuff. And then you go to the next slide. So how do we capture the potential dropped objects? Well, we have our star observation. In our observation, we have one category, and one category is the potential dropped objects. So what we've done is encourage the crews and the rig team to say, look, for potential dropped objects, not just for static dropped objects, but for potential dropped objects. And we are aware that, we have a lifting and we have a couple other ones where some of the categories you can pick lifting or you can pick potential dropped objects. But for this particular campaign, if you see a lifting operation that could have collided, say, with a floodlight that doesn't have protection on there, document that it could have been a potential dropped object, could have been a dynamic. We're not too hung up on dynamic or static. We're just trying to have all the guys think, what could crash, what could smash, break, what could fall. Again, this is part of your lifting. Also, I kind of want to take it one more area and say, what could drop, what could fall? And hopefully what it does is not only does it give you on our weekly routines or our drops inspection, but constantly these guys are out there looking at a potential object, what could collide, what could fall, and how can we make that particular space safer? Next slide, please. And here's the star card. So if you look at this particular star card in the Power BI, you're able to filter. So if you look at the AOD3, on this particular month, they captured 22 potential dropped objects. And out of those 22 were unsafe actions, and then there was only 2 that were acts. So what we do is we try to encourage the guys, say, all right, look, you're doing a great job of getting the conditions, which are a static dropped object, or there was a potential where it could fall. But I definitely want to focus a little bit more on the acts, and we'll try to promote that further. How do we promote it? Again, if you go to the next slide, please. Basically, we pull out the data, and then you can see what the guys are putting in for potential dropped objects. So we can pull all the data out there. We can look at the different potential dropped objects they're identifying. And again, at the general weekly safety meetings, we can raise awareness. We can do hazard recognition. Great job in this potential dropped object, and you can put objects up there present to a whole can for a month. Again, we found it very effective, and we found it in North Atlantic and in Africa, where when the HSE managers they started promoting this potential dropped objects, we noticed that the drops would actually go down. So it does have an impact on the crew, and we'd like to capture it across the fleet. But again, the only way a campaign works is constant, reinforcement, motivation, and positive reinforcement that these guys are actually reporting honestly. If you go back to the AOD, his key to his success is honest reporting and open conversations. And I really do think that's the key of a successful rig, is to not to hide things, but to be open. If you make a mistake, just go ahead and bring it up, report it, and then we can learn from it, and then we can move forward. I know I went pretty fast. I'm kind of on a time crunch. That's pretty much what we had for the AOD3, and I'll open it up if anybody has any questions. I'll be happy to answer.
So, while others are thinking about their questions, Jeff, one of the one question I have is what's the role of the client typically in a successful drops campaign?
Yeah, so in the magazine too, it had a big spread that was talking about how they had a strong relationship with the client and the way they operate. The client has a big on the rig operation when it comes to I don't want to say, but some of them, sometimes you might feel a little bit of pressure. There might not be pressure, but you kind of feel it. And you got to make sure that, you know, you're working at the speed of your crew. And we have this thing called tempo in Seadrill where it says, you know, operate with it the least proficient crew member, don't rush, operate within your limits. And I think that's really a key element, is to make sure that, you know, you don't rush the jobs. If there's too many jobs going on, you shut one down, you make sure you do it safely. But the client has a huge influence on the speed of the operation and what their expectation is versus as what proper expectation work being done.
Great. Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thanks. So we have one question from Eamon. How is AOD giving drops awareness training to junior crews?
Well, I believe they have some presentations. Eamon, as you know, you were at the corporate office, and you have the train the trainer packages that we send out to all of our particular locations. So in Seadrill, we have a SharePoint where you have drops train the trainer material, and we actually have K2 that has different elements that we actually contract when it comes to presentation. And so systematically, they'll give out these presentations on different topics. So one will be static, one will be dynamic, and it goes through different topics. But yeah, great question. And you do need the material to go ahead and continually educate the new crew that are coming in. But good question, Eamon.
What I saw, so you kind of have this dashboard. So is it kind of like a competition between different rigs about who can operate safer?
There's always a competition, man, and healthy competition is always quite good. And that's where we're rig of the quarter. So each quarter based off the KPIs, then there's an award and there's a ceremony that's given to the guys. Now, the Middle East has won it the last year, but the Q1 Asia Pacific has taken the honor of having the rig of the quarter for Q1. That's the West Vencedor over in Miramar. So it is possible for a different area to actually get it, but the AOD did have great success, which I'm not taking away, but Asia Pacific has kind of slid over there and took the award for Q1 over here in the West Vencedor. But healthy competition is good as long as we and again, efficient operations go hand in hand with safe operations. So like, again, when I said we have the management system, if we execute it properly and we have the right tempo, usually the people that get it right the first time and don't always have to be the fastest.
So there's one question from Edwin. Is there a pattern of performance versus age profile experience of staff on a rig?
Oh, and I'd have to dig into the profile, but you can actually see that if you look at our HSE events, the majority of our HSE events are actually happening in supervisors currently, which is quite a strange topic. So the work experience is quite high, but these are the people that are getting injured. And there's a philosophy behind it. And again, it's all on case by case basis, but it seems like, you know, you have the new guys come in that aren't very experienced, so the supervisors are getting more involved in the task. But again, these are things that are managed, and we can kind of work our way through it. I wonder if that answered the question.
Okay, yeah, thanks. So there's a question from Elisa regarding sharing the PowerPoint slides. I think they didn't come through with all for everyone. Is that something you'd be able to share afterwards?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be an issue, to be honest with you. But let me run it by the team. But I don't think there's anything confidential on there that I wouldn't mind sharing with you guys.
Okay, so you know, for anyone who wants to have a presentation, send an email to me or Jeff. All right, there's a question from Bunga. I saw your presentation. You're using software. Is it software specific for drops? Or
no, it's not software specific for drop. It's from Microsoft Azure. But what we've done is we've taken our database and Synergy and all the data points and elements we're able to incorporate into the Power BI. So we're able to pull out all the different trends and to be able to dig down on exactly what's happening in our company pretty much in real time.
Right. Question from Simon. As we know, there are so many third-party drops inspection companies out there, and we all have our own programs, inspection systems. How does Seadrill know who or what to choose? Yeah, big subject always in drops. Like to hear your perspective as well, Jeff.
It's actually really it's a great question, and we kind of tackled it. And for me personally, it doesn't matter what company they're coming from. It's the quality of the inspector. So it could be K2 top rope, you know, whichever one it is. But what we ask for at Seadrill before we do the MSA is we definitely want to vet the inspectors that are coming out, because the inspectors are the ones that are actually out here working. And we actually like to try to find one that has been experienced on this particular rig type. So if I'm doing it for a drill ship, I like to see the inspector's CV. I like to see that he's actually been on this rig type many times, and especially I really like to see if they've been on the shipyard and they were part of the building and they know all the ins and outs of the derrick and all the equipment. And again, it doesn't really matter what company it is. It's actually about the, the inspectors that come out. Now there's a few, of course, that we kind of lean to because some of these vendors actually have their own particular training. We've been to their training facility and we know that their inspectors go through this particular training. But again, even if they go through their training, I like to actually vet the inspectors before they come out to the rig. So great question. Yeah. And I think we all kind of have that challenge, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah. See one more question related to inspections as well. How often do you use third parties? How many drops or non-compliance do you find during these visits on your best rig?
That's a good question. I can't tell you off the top of my head off my best rig, but what I can tell you is that some of the inspectors that come out there, they base it off the best practices, but actually Seadrill's directive is not 100% the best practice because there's a couple of different variations. So usually when these reports come out, there'll be a lot of findings, but again, we have to cross-reference it with our directive. And that's one of the things that we've given to the inspectors. We say, look, we know you got the best practice, kind of like the holy grail, the best thing that you can do. But then we have our Seadrill directives, which we believe is quite robust and it's more manageable. And when you talk about cost, I mean, you don't need drop nets all over the fluorescent lights all over the rig because they're not enough potential for collision and there's really no need for it. So then we do risk assessments, identify where the high potential is, and then we put it on there. So again, they come back with their recommendations. And again, some of them are valid, some of them aren't. But again, we like to go against our particular requirements.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think sometimes companies end up spending a lot of money on rectifying things, but actually what they've got is already good. Sometimes because of the lack of understanding.
I'm walking around on this particular rig. I was on the fantail and they got nets around the floodlights and there's no cranes, there's no lift, there's no potential for collision, and I have no idea why these nets are on there. But again, this is something that we need to make sure that we agree. So.
All right. So with that, thank you very much, Jeff, for presenting. I think it was very, very insightful. Looking forward to the next webinar. Thank you all for joining the participants. I think we have a good attendance.